Hello and welcome back to One More Run, the podcast all about roguelikes, roguelites, and run-based games. We have just been playing Voidigo. Shen, it was your choice last time, wasn't it? And we had to
Yes.
ply you with different types of cute and colourful games.
Definitely colorful. Cute, not so much until I started playing it, and then it got more cute and also more disgusting. But I wanted to play an action game, and this is a pretty exciting, very juicy action game.
Yeah, so shall we do our description of the game for folks that haven't seen it, haven't played it?
Yeah, the top-down twin-stick shooter, like Binding of Isaac, Enter the Gungeon, Nuclear Throne, a million others. It's got a really nice, colorful pixel art aesthetic. Like in a lot of those other games, you're going like one room at a time, shooting enemies, dodging a lot of bullets and attacks, as it's a bullet hell type game. You navigate a little map that looks like almost like a Legend of Zelda dungeon grid going from room to room. And what makes the game unique is rather than playing a bunch of rooms and having a big boss at the end of them, or even at the end of a dungeon, the boss is just going to appear along the way in one of those rooms. And you have to kind of persistently fight them and chase them around the world. So ultimately, it's a boss hunting type of game in this twin stick bullet hell framing. You know, it's got a big focus on the wacky weapons, on the wacky characters and bosses. Whole lot of depth to it, and a lot of like emphasis on skill based.
You know, a lot of these games, it's like you map out the level and then you work out where the boss is, and then you either go and fight the boss or you leave it as long as possible while you collect all the loot, because the boss is moving around and you're hunting the boss. Has anyone played Showdown the Hunt, the extraction game, which is like a first-person shooter, right? Stealth-based, Wild West kind of thing, and you're hunting these monsters. And it was the only thing I could like map this onto in my head as being a similar game in that structure where the boss isn't just like in a room where you have to go and fight them. So it's interesting because there's lots here that you would recognize from other type sort of top-down bullet hell type games, but it's doing some unusual things with the format that I haven't seen before.
I guess it did also remind me a bit of a Monster Hunter where, you know, you go to a location, the boss will be there, but then it might wander off somewhere else and you got to keep like chasing it. Like the game definitely reminded me of that.
Cheese, you said there's quite a lot of wacky weapons in here as well, and there's a big restriction on the player because they can only ever hold two things, right? So you see all these weapons. Some of them are very standard things like shotguns and stuff, and some of them we'll get into are like really strange. But you start off with one, and then you quickly get your second one, and after that point, whenever you pick something else up, you're choosing something to drop.
Yeah, and there's really only two weapon types. They have ranged and melee. The ranged weapons have a magazine, which isn't in a lot of these games, so a shotgun shoots 2 shots, and then you gotta reload it each time. The melee weapons have durability, but it's just ammo. That's just their way of making something similar. But like you said, you only have 2 weapon slots, and I think what's really fun about this game is you don't buff and upgrade the weapons as you play, so it leaves a lot of room for you wanting to experiment, trade out other guns. There's a real restriction on ammo, which really bugged me at first, but I got used to it. But that's another thing that makes you want to maybe have to throw away your favorite weapon to trade it for some ammo or trade it for another power-up. So there's a lot of subtle things the game does with constraints. It encourages you to keep changing things up and mixing them around. That being said, there's still upgrades, passive bonuses, stacking mechanisms, where you can still have a run where you're really good at electricity damage and you shoot, you know, bullets that are rockets that turn into snakes and then rats and bite people, and all kinds of weird stuff like that you kind of expect out of a pixel art run-based game.
If you purchase ammo or if you find some ammo, it stays in the room that you got it. You don't get to carry it around. So you might save that ammo, then leave the room to go after a boss or to clear another room to get upgrades, and then you might run out of ammo and say, "Oh, I got to go back to that room, and the boss is in the room." Well, I guess I'll just have to kite around the boss and grab my ammo and leave.
It's quite generous with stuff, but then it does have all these trade-offs. So it's like, oh, you can buy some ammo here for like 5 shards, I think they're called, but you can buy the ammo or the health, but you can only buy one thing. That's like a really common thing you get in the game. Also, sometimes you just be like I found myself in melee with bosses just like pistol whipping them when I'd run out of ammo, and every so often they do just drop one for you.
Yes.
So it's quite generous with that, and it sounds like from our description there's loads of backtracking through the rooms, but there's like a quick travel to any of the rooms you've been to before as well. The boss has this like segmented health bar with locks on it,
Yes.
and you sort of have to unlock these little, what are they called? They're called beacons, aren't they? To take
I think
the
so. You have to
locks
stomp on the beacons because they're
like-
corrupted when you show up to the room, I think.
It's like a very artificial way of forcing you to go around the whole level as you fight the boss, like incrementally in multiple sessions. And it's very video gamey and like contrived, but I think it works quite well once you understand how it works. You mentioned stomping then, Shen, as well. I mean, do you want to describe the jumping on dudes mechanic?
Right, yes. So in addition to shooting and swinging weapons around, you can jump. Jump is your dodge, as well as if you jump and you land on an enemy, it's sort of, for most enemies, it temporarily immobilizes them and they kind of stumble and they fall, and then you can kind of take some free shots at them. There's also, when you begin the game, the starting character has a passive ability that lets you basically, when you can sort of chain stomp enemies and then stomp on the ground, and then there'll be an explosion in some radius around you proportionate to how many stomps on enemies you did in a row, and that can be a way to save ammo and also just a fun way to explode stuff. But you can also sprint around, and those are kind of the main actions. So the jumping is not to jump over walls or anything. It's your dodge.
Some upgrades that drop these buttons down on the floor, and you'll be jumping off an enemy's head and then jumping on a button, and then the button like freezes people, or I don't know, whatever. You use like the bounce off things mechanic to activate the beacons, and then sometimes you have things that trigger with the beacons. Like you might have an upgrade that adds a turret next to the beacon, so you're deliberately trying to aggro the boss and bring them close to those turrets and stuff. This set of actions, like you just said, Shen, there's not loads of things the character can do, right? But you've got all of these different upgrades and stuff you get that trigger off of the same thing. So you might get 3 upgrades that all trigger when you jump on someone's head, or certain upgrades that trigger when you reload, right? Like grenades and stuff. So then you're incentivized to have the small magazine weapons. So there's lots of these kind of, when this happens, if this, do this type power-up triggers. And that means you can do really fun little builds where you're just sort of like, like raining out snakes and rats and all sorts of weird projectiles.
Yeah, I always get very excited when I'd have a particularly good melee weapon early, and then I would keep getting buffs for like melee. Like there's one for like, if you melee attack, a laser will shoot out. If you melee attack, you'll get a knockback, and it like just kept getting those. And I was like, oh, this is great, I'm loving this. And then when like a really good gun came along, I was like, I don't want it. I would on like any other run, but I don't want it now. Get away from me. I'm sticking with my lovely big axe.
Yeah, I think one of the best runs I had was with 2 melee weapons and like loads of passives that benefited both the melee weapons, and I thought, oh, it's really good that you can do this, because I thought that wasn't going to be viable, but it still worked.
You do have multiple characters that you unlock as the game progresses, and they're pretty different in their control style and like the upgrades you get. Did any of y'all have like a favorite character out of all the ones that you played?
So when I first unlocked, it was like the sun robot. I can't remember what was the name of that character. It was like a robot sunshine guy, and he's
Is it
like
Dr.
really cool.
Fusion or something?
Yeah. He's got the sunglasses, and one of the starting weapons you can get pretty much just automatically breaks and like brings all the coins towards you. Like there's a lot of like destructible little gold vases, your classic pots from Zelda, like, get a shard here, get a shard there. Shards are primary money in this game. And yeah, just not having to like break all the little things, as satisfying as that is, like when you've played the game a bunch of times, it's like, oh, it's nice to just run through here and just everything just automatically breaks. I really liked that. And then when going back to another character, I was like, why are they not breaking? I don't want to do it myself. There's so much work. Oh.
Only one I didn't unlock was the plant-themed one, Botanica. There's the inventor that I didn't play as much, who is like the hardest mode.
It's Dr. Santa.
You have to control two characters at once effectively with him. I really like the cloud guy. The cloud guy just has this really long slappy hand, and you can just like melee people from really far away, and
Oh my
it's
goodness.
quite fun. But it makes aiming difficult because you have to aim with this extended hand that doesn't follow you in the same way as the regular character. So yeah, it's very much that design approach where none of the characters are just like a straight up improvement. They're all slightly more awkward game modes in some way.
Yeah, I just did a run today with Carcamus, which I called Dr. Santa because he just looks like Santa. But he has a little drone that follows him around, Jimbot. And it's really hard to learn at first because this is a twin stick shooter and your reticle is moving around this drone that follows you. But eventually I found out like you can just play the game without touching the right stick with that guy. And basically you can just stay far away from every boss. And I just doubled down on upgrades that make a bunch of bullets and projectiles and auto aiming and everything. And it was great, but it definitely took a while to get used to.
Yeah, so what he basically does is he takes the part of your character that takes damage that you need to move around and the part that deals damage that you need to aim and puts them on different sticks and puts them on different characters, right? The bot has like a Wi-Fi connection meter to the professor or whatever. So you have to keep them close some of the time, otherwise the bot stops working. And but you're flying the bot around independently and shooting stuff with it and trying to keep Professor Santa away so he doesn't take damage. It's really interesting, but it's definitely like super hard mode version of the game when you first don't understand how it works.
I don't think I actually played as that character, but that sounds like a combination of... So in Binding of Isaac, it sounds like a combination of having Isaac's heart and playing as like Jacob and Esau, which like anyone who's played Binding of Isaac will like shudder at the idea of those two things combining. No, it sounds horrible. I was going to play him, but I'm glad I didn't.
So you'll play a run, you'll buy upgrades and weapons in the run, you lose. You get a currency. I forget off the top of my head what it's called, but it's like
shards. Yeah,
shards.
Little rainbow diamonds. Yeah.
Oh no, the progression currency is like the pink and black void things.
Oh, that's okay. That's something else. Yes.
Void giblets, whatever they're called, you get them. But that's your meta currency. So after a run, you get like 6 of them, and you're like, yeah, I got just a few more. And you use those to kind of like upgrade your main base area, which is how you kind of like add more content to the game. So you're unlocking characters. There's another aspect of like gold items you can pick up that might unlock additional bosses in the future runs. And when you unlock characters, you can also unlock new starting weapons to start them with. Some of them have terrible starting weapons, I think. So you get a little bit of choice in there. So Shan, you like Drash, and I think you like starting with like the big sword that came with them or something. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that weapon is garbage, but that's why I wanted to play it.
Okay, did not like the big sword. Okay. But it gives you choice to kind of like start up your run in a different way. And then I think the other final thing the game's doing is there's like an extrinsic reward for mastering a gun, a character, defeating a boss, and you have these like persistent, like you've unlocked 20 out of 50 in this shard pile. Yeah, and I didn't unlock all of them. I don't know about y'all, but it definitely motivated me to want to keep
that
doing
was
that
the
stuff.
essences. I think I said essences earlier because I thought you were talking about the essences, but you were talking about like the other thing that you unlock outside of each run. I was like, but yeah, those I think a lot of my playing like was like motivated primarily on like essence maxing. Just like I was like, whenever there was like a weapon or an ability that like I hadn't got the essence for yet, I was like, well, I've got to equip that. I want all my essences, and like
Yeah, there's sort of like internal achievements, right, for using a certain gun a certain amount of times or defeating a certain boss a certain number of times. But this area of the game, the camp, right, is where you go to between runs. It's like the little home area in Hades. You know, you go around, you talk to some characters, you spend your resources and upgrades. I would say this is where my main bugbear with the game lives. It felt like this was very strongly weighted to you not knowing what you're spending your resources on. And sometimes you do. When you start unlocking like the main character's starting weapons, you can loosely see what they're going to be. Like there's a shape of them. But there's a lot of areas of this where it's like, oh, you've got to spend 12 of this currency that took you 2 runs to earn. And you're going to unlock this big area of the camp. And you have no idea what's going to be in there. And there's occasions when that's exciting. And I'm a big fan of having like a mix of rewards where I know what I'm going to get and where I don't know what I'm going to get. But so much of this game was grinding for a currency and then having the options to spend it on these 5 different things and not knowing what the difference between them was. I felt like that kind of demotivated me a little bit after a while. I just didn't really know where I was putting that stuff, you know?
Yeah, the void giblets are also, you only get them when you defeat bosses. You're not even guaranteed to get them in a run. You have to beat a boss, which can be hard to do. So that was annoying. Yes, and we forgot about the pets. Yes, you can spend your void giblets on very ugly, very lovable pets.
That was definitely a feature that surprised me about the game. I was like, oh wow, they've got this too. This game's got it all, baby.
Yeah, the pet system is wonderful. It's like has all of these little procedural elements of like here's the head, here's the eyes, and then you choose the little burbled voice and the syllables that make up their name. And yeah, mine is awful. I hate it.
And then you can banish them forever.
Oh, I need to do that. I haven't banished yet.
I in addition to like making a pet, like you think, oh, there's just a little bit of flavor for the lobby area, but then you'll be doing a run, and then the pet will just suddenly appear partway through the run, and they can be like an actual like support character because you can get like pets or minions like it throughout the run, like little buddies to like help you provide additional gunfire, and sometimes your pet will actually show up with like an epic weapon and you can just have them follow you around making the stupid noise that you assigned them and then regret you gave them that noise because it's just like, oh god, it was funny the first time, but now I've got to listen to it for the whole second half of the run.
Yeah, the syllables are wacky. Mine was something like or something like that. It's just wacky names you don't want to hear too many times. I agree with that.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of ownership. There's like a very tiny feature that I really appreciated as well. It's like you can choose the UI color each run.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but I found that very enjoyable. I think because I was recording footage as well, and I was like, I'm going to choose a different color each time, so you can tell when it's a different thing. But I kind of liked looking at the characters and being like, what's their secondary color? Oh, that guy's got a little bit of orange. I'm going to make the UI orange, which is just like me having a strange brain thing. But I did appreciate that feature.
I think the first time I picked like a bright pink color, and then I was like, no, I think that's too much. So then I just went for like a nice dull green for like every other run. It does. I think the only other time a game has done this might be Final Fantasy VII. Like I remember enjoying changing the dialogue box color to like.
Oh yeah, you could change the whole gradient, couldn't you? Yeah, but devs, put color pickers in your games. If there's any element of your game where you could attach a color picker and let people customize it, I think the people that enjoy that will like it a disproportionate amount in a weird way. But also, speaking of per run choices, a really interesting design choice that I liked here and that we discussed a little bit in our text chat when we were playing is the fact that you can choose the difficulty each run you go on, right? So a run might take you like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes if you die. It might take you like 30, 40 minutes if you get through all of the different areas and the bosses. But every time you do a run, you can choose to play on the more relaxed, casual, slow mode where all the projectiles are slow or like the much more like hardcore by Binding of Isaac type difficulty. It seems obvious, but I haven't seen many run-based games do that. Because especially in this format, this like roguelite format where you're farming for a resource, it's just really smart. I think it's such a good way of doing it because there were times when I sat down to play this and I was like, oh, I've only got enough time for one run and I want to have Oh, I want to feel good, so I'm going to make it easier.
Yeah, although the difficulty's not the most uncommon thing, I think that choosing the color, changing the characters, the loadouts, there's a lot of things that the devs did that are, if you're a game dev, you might waffle on decisions a lot, like what's the best color to use in the UI and A/B testing. But ultimately, they're like, just give the player the option and let them decide. And that's a helpful trick sometimes.
Yeah.
And then before we get too far, like we didn't mention, this is from SemiWork is the developer, and they're the ones who came out with Repo, REPO, I think maybe 2 years ago, riding the friend swap wave. But this was definitely their big hit before they switched over to the Repo game.
While we're on the topic of stuff being silly and colourful, I have a note here just to give people a peek behind the scenes. There's a spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet just says visual chaos in capital letters.
I think I was playing the game and there's so many colors I got overstimulated and I talked in caps for the entire evening.
Dan, you pitched this game.
Yeah, well, I think, the game is... I don't think I have played a game that is this colorful and this concentrated with activity ever. This game felt uniquely just... Oh,
Well, the
Saturation all the way up.
Yeah. It's like the saturation is all the way up, and there's this mix of these kind of dirtier, gross tones, and then really candy sort of pastel type tones. And the only thing it really reminds me of is Rick and Morty, like the way
That's
that the
true.
alien planets are done in Rick and Morty. Like Rick and Morty has this thing where the real world the Earth doesn't look like that, but then every time they go to an alien planet, it's like this kind of disgusting, like gross Cronenberg body horror psychedelia, but done with like Barbie doll colors. That's the Rick and Morty art style, and they've done that here so well. But the like the brand pink is used for like all of the danger markers in the game, right? So whenever you're fighting a boss, like all of their projectiles and everything are that same bright pink. Of the main character.
Yeah, that was like I think something that we were all very impressed by. Like, despite the sheer chaos, the fact that it was able to clearly show a danger zone where you're about to where it's something to avoid. Like, it was very easy to keep on top of that and to see that in amidst the absolute visual noise of everything else going on. I think that's definitely an impressive bit of game dev right there.
Yeah. I think the pink was reserved for enemies. The enemies would become outlined with a very bright, screaming pink when they're about to attack, or where there was if one is gonna shoot a grenade barrel at you or something, the hit area that you'll get hit in is outlined in pink very, very clearly. So you just know to immediately move. So the challenge becomes less, I think, reading kind of the spatial stuff. You do have to kind of learn the timing if you're trying to dodge by jumping at the correct time, which I don't think became relevant until kind of more higher difficulty situations. But the kind of combat information was laid out pretty well, I think, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I struggle quite a lot with like bosses in Souls-like games when they're very memory and pattern focused, and I have to remember and like read the situation. And I didn't have that issue with this because so much of it is just like you're looking where the current danger markers are, and they're a pink spiky thing, and sometimes they show some sort of directionality, and that visual language is incredibly consistent. And basically, they've gone down this route of the player has all of these kind of crazy weapons and different types of projectiles and stuff, and we'll put all of the time and effort into making those as different as possible, and then all of the enemies just shoot you with the same pink glow balls and stuff, so that it's very, very easy for you to understand what's going on visually, which is it's a really interesting decision because the game is obviously very, very hard, especially if you play at harder levels, but it's got these little bits of kind of it's where kind of UX overlaps with art direction, where they're obviously making these choices to make the game easier in some ways,
Yeah, really, they did such a good job with it because I've worked on games where you kind of put the constraint on yourself too early of like, oh, enemies are red, therefore the character can't be red. But it really lends itself well to the art style because it's really shining from variety. Like you're fighting computers and like bird people and I don't know, slime monsters, and every color palette. Your characters are all different color palettes, so it the variety shines, and just having these really consistent attack zones and bullet markers really helps. Shannon and I were playing co-op, and some people in the Discord community were watching. And admittedly, if you just watch a recording of this game, it kind of seems like, how do you know what is happening? But I can guarantee when you're in it and you're actually playing it, it just does a really good job at letting your brain go into a flow state almost and know the things you should be doing. And it can be pretty easy to not get hit after a while once you get used to the game.
The co-op got a little confusing sometimes because I was so used to playing on my own, so I would sort of tune out anything that wasn't the pink damage hitboxes. And then when I started playing with a second person, I suddenly was like, oh, I have to think about what's the other person doing? Like, are they alive? Like, did they stomp on something? Did they just hit something? What is that? So I think it got a little less readable in co-op, but you were at least had a pal to help out with shooting things. But yeah, I'm still pretty impressed with the readability of everything.
Like you said at the start, Shen, with the jumping on the bouncing on their head move, a lot of the time you're using that to like knock one of them down. So you might have like 4 enemies on the screen, but a lot of the time the moment to moment trade-offs is like, do I want to deal damage or do I want to like knock a few of these down, or like you can pistol whip them and they fall down as well. So there's quite a lot of ways of just like limiting the amount of attacks coming in at you at any given time and like just whittling the enemies down more slowly.
And it is a 2D 2.5D, whatever if you want to call it, but the dodge jump, like you are invulnerable when you're jumping, even when a boss is dashing at you. So although you can kind of cheese it when things get hectic and just keep jumping constantly, I think that dodge mechanic of having very generous invulnerability frames of jumping over the battle really helps out a lot with the chaos of the bullet hell game. Because as long as you're in the air, you're typically fine.
At its most hectic, I think just constantly jumping did feel a bit like I feel like I wasn't really testing my skills at that point. It was just like jump. It took me back to when I was waiting for a dungeon raid to start in World of Warcraft, and I'm just like jumping up and down because that's like the only thing to do with the character while you wait 2 hours for everyone to like finish dinner and everyone be ready for the raid. So everyone's just like jumping with their characters. And, I don't know.
That's why they have those challenge rooms, though, right? Because there are these little challenge rooms where you go in and you choose like which constraint you're going to have in the room and which item you're going to try and get from that room. And some of them are like, you can't jump, or you can't block, or you can't sprint. Or there's one where it's like you've got to defeat the enemies in a particular order. Or
there's also one where you have to jump all the time called Ants in the Pants.
They're fun. They're really fun.
That one's for Dan.
Yeah,
and again, actually, I'd hate to be pedantic, but I think the ants in the pants one is you can't stop moving. You don't have to jump. You have to keep moving.
Shen just jumped as well for a bonus, yeah. But I mean, coming back to the thing of it being generous, like you complete one of these challenge rooms and there'll be items left over, and if you exit the room destroys. It's like a little portal door in the main level. But when it does, the resources that you left on the floor in that room pop out and stay in the main kind of complex of levels, right? So that's like a point in the game where they could have been really mean and gone, oh, you didn't pick this thing up in time and you left and you forgot it was there, so you've lost it now. And they don't do that, and it's interesting again because the game is relatively hardcore, and it does some of this weird stuff of like hiding what you're going to get, so you spend resources and you don't know what you're going to get, and it's a bit of a gamble. But a lot of the time it's very, very generous with giving you stuff or making sure you don't lose stuff or waste stuff by like picking it up when you've got maximum of something. And yeah, I mean, I think it was a team of about 4 or 5 made this. It's like a reasonably sized small indie team. So
It's actually
I
smaller
think,
than I would have guessed.
right, yeah, but I think even just if you compare this to a similar game made by 1 or 2 people, I think whether or not they've got like a UI UX specialist involved in this game or something like that, I think just the fact of having a slightly larger team and playtesting together and finding all of these like little moments of annoyance and then sort of ironing them out of the game is probably something that comes from having that slightly larger team. Because if you do go back and compare this with something like Binding of Isaac, like obviously it's a very difficult, harsh game, but it's also really opaque with telling you what things do and like giving you power ups and just being like, oh, this tarot card, you press this button to activate it. Good luck, you won't know what it does until you press that button, you know? And there's doesn't quite have that same mean streak in this game. It feels like it's just constantly trying to help you in various ways, even if it's challenging you a lot at the same time.
Yeah, and along with those, there's like when you jump between rooms, they have a shortcut portal that you can jump through, so you don't have to necessarily run back through everything. I enjoyed that. Although I've seen some gripes about the tutorial, it's nice that it gives you consent. Do you even want to do the tutorial? You can skip it. So there's definitely a lot of user-centric stuff in it. And just real quick, because I watched they have a short little 20-minute making of video on YouTube, and so it was 3 devs, and they certainly contracted out some work for ProcGen and things like that. I think one of the dev sisters came in to do voiceovers, but it seems like it was mostly 3 devs on the project. But it took them 4 or 5 years to ultimately get through it. And this game was in early access for, I could be wrong here, but like at least a year. So they certainly got a nice game out there and got a lot of player feedback to improve it over time.
Yeah, it definitely strikes me as that kind of game that has had a lot of quality of life added to it.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be surprised if like some of the stuff like Joe was saying, like I'd be very impressed if like that kind of stuff just was already put in like right away. Like there's so many like of these edge cases where it's like, how could they have possibly thought to like improve that bit there? Like, because I feel like the chances of just finding that, oh, like a good example. So there's this optional quest where there's this grandma with the ghost babies, and you can choose whether to do that quest or not. But if you do choose to do that quest, any health ups.
Yeah, the health power ups are spirits in jars, right? So you're just using them for that instead.
Something that particularly impressed me was if you just are unlucky enough and you're not able to actually fill up all the babies' cots in an area, and then you go to like the next area, they will follow you, so you can just you could do that quest like across multiple areas, because it did seem like the kind of thing where if you don't get all the health in one area, you're kind of screwed and you've just got to give up on that quest. But the fact that they overlapped it and they just follow you until it's done, I thought that was a really nice like little generous act of kindness.
I agree. Yeah, I remember getting that quest, and I remember, what was it? I had used up all of the health in the kind of level or round I was in. There's I think 4 rounds total and maximum in one run, and it's basically once you clear a boss, that's clearing the round, and then you can go around and collect all the resources that you missed and then go on the next round. I remember the feeling of dread when I was like, I haven't collected all the babies yet, and the ghost grandma is still crying, and do I leave or do I try to stick around? And I was very, very pleased that they did that. It felt, I think overall the feeling of the game was that the devs wanted you to have fun at the level that you were going to play at. I did try to go up in difficulty just because I was sort of curious about it after I had cleared the kind of default the first time, one time, and I noticed that the new difficulty was substantially higher, where I had a lot of trouble clearing the first boss again. But also it felt, when I looked at the numbers of the void giblets you would get per boss, it didn't seem to scale so well compared to how much harder it was. And so it kind of signaled to me that the goal of the experience was for people to basically choose how they play and not be heavily penalized by it. And we were talking a lot about the visual chaos and all the love that I think that's gone into the visuals and the game feel. And there's also the sound though. There's lots of really funny, gross sounds, and the music as well. As there's a lot of I felt like there was a lot of detail put in the music as well. With normally it's kind of quiet, and then you get into a fight, and then the music gets excited along with you, and it kind of goes away again once it calms down once you've beaten everybody up. And I also, and every time you start a new run, there is this gloopy sounding narrator, which I love. At first I was like, what is this? But then I sort of came to really enjoy it. And they also have subtitles at the top, because I genuinely had trouble understanding sometimes what he was saying. We're in the ocean and there's these shrimp. Oh, spooky flavor text. That's kind of funny. That would be every single
pretty good.
That's it.
It's like a kind of old B movie, like Tales of the Unexpected or Crypt Keeper or something like that. Kind of like
Old like the middle of
TV,
like the middle of Michael Jackson's Thriller, where there's Vince. I don't know who
Vincent
it is.
Price. It is
Vincent Price doing it. Yeah,
we are going to play Voidigo. That kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, we talk little bit about the world building and the lore, because you said there's like all these different creatures. I never actually finished a run. I only got through to like the third area, but it's like the first area is kind of Atlantis, and you've got shrimp type people.
Yeah.
And the second area is themed around emeralds, and you have pig people. But then it also has this interesting mechanic where you upgrade an area and you gradually increase the diversity of like enemies and challenges in that area, which I think is again a really cool feature that I haven't seen much, because it's like rather than just upgrading your characters that you play as, you're going to upgrade the stuff that you'll come across in the game. And games that have this structure, like, you know, Slay the Spire, where you go through the same 3 areas, or Binding of Isaac, where you go through the same 4 areas, that's a really neat way of expanding the content, of like just gradually making it have more stuff in and be more random by virtue of the fact it has more stuff in. But yeah, the world building is really strange. There seems to be a running joke that all the things that should be treasure that you pick up aren't. You know, like, so everything in the first world is made out of gold, and then everything in the second world is made out of emeralds, and that stuff is just junk for you to blow up.
And the weapons were really weird too. I feel like the weapons also had really weird lore implications, because my favorite weapon was this constipated banana gun. It's a banana. It's called Banana Splat, apparently. Someone else put it in the spreadsheet for me, because I forgot what it was called. And you pick it up, and it's making these like you know, this kind of disgusting noises, and then you shoot it, and it shoots a banana like a sploot, and it's got eyes, and it's got a face, and it makes a face. And there's also a sword it's a sword holding a smaller sword, and both of them have faces and are both making like yeah, and then there's also an axe. That's the same thing, a big axe holding a little axe.
Can I read you the flavor text for the banana split?
Yes.
It says, "This banana is so nervous it's practically shaking in fear. Not because of anything it's done. It's actually extremely good-hearted and is simply trying to do its best. It's scared of letting you down." It's kind of a 1-1-1 ratio of absolutely bizarre weapons that are often creatures or sentient, and then like very standard shotguns and stuff, and then really zany sci-fi ice lasers and things that look like they're from some old Saturday morning kids TV thing, like He-Man or something.
Yeah, it's the absurdity in the game is really coming through with the weapons, and a little bit in the enemies. There's certainly some, I'd say the void enemies are like super cool looking from like a Steam player's perspective, where there's a lot of like black and claws and things like that. But when you get into the guns, it's back to kind of the sort of like the Rick and Morty aesthetic that you were bringing up earlier. I think the first cool gun that I got was called, or the one that I really liked was called like Renegade Cat on a Stick, and it's a black witch's cat that stole the broomstick. So it's a melee weapon, but it just goes like, and it's just an angry cat that bites everybody and kind of propels you around. And I think another one I got was called skeleton musician or something, and he has a little
Oh, yeah.
doot trumpet and shoots bones at people, and it's just wonderful set of weapons.
Yeah, there's a couple of skeletons. There's the one that does the doot doot, and then there's the biting skeleton that you just
Right.
is just sort of like reaches out and goes ah, and it's like one of those. Do you remember those toys where it'd be like a dinosaur's head with a little string
Oh,
inside, and
yeah.
it's like one of those, but you can attack people with it, and it's amazing.
The sheer amount of flavor in some of these weapons was just like, sometimes I just wanted to like stand still and just soak in the animations of like each gun, because like like the tooting skeleton like would just shoot bones out of the saxophone, and then when it's reloading it'll like get backed up, and then the trumpet would just like bulge out, and then eventually just explode a bunch of bones, and then he'll like there's just so much going on that, like, just in the guns, but it made me think like, I wonder I wonder, like, if we go to like space out the absurdity a bit more, but be careful what you wish for.
Well, it's definitely one of those things where I play with the weapons in this game, and it really makes me want to nerd out with the system's design. It is modular because there are certain projectiles that are considered to be bullets. You'll have a gun that shoots bullets, and then you'll have a power-up that says, oh, bullets are rats now. So the gun that shot bullets, they're turned into rats. Or you'll have, all projectiles are now grenades. So a gun that behaved in a certain way or spread in a certain way now completely differently because the physics is the things now being grenades, and it's just this really cool modular weapon for any game we're shooting in. But I think if you did it in a less absurd game, you'd have to put all of these guardrails on it, right? If this was like a grim, serious, like Halo, Gears of War type setting, and you did that, you'd have to like constrain it in ways that wouldn't make the most of the system, because you'd have to say, oh no, that's too silly, we can't do that. But because this is already silly, then any power-ups that you get that make things even more silly, because the machine gun is now firing like grenade rats or whatever, it's just good because it all kind of fits and is tonally sensible with the rest of the game.
I'm making assumptions here, but after watching the documentary they put out, the devs they have like a big animation background. They had a YouTube animation series, and they admitted that a couple years into development, they realized, oh man, we need to systematize the NPCs and we need to make a better foundation for the guns and things like that. But what really shows is that just doing a content first approach and not being too, I forget the word, but like too overly cautious as a developer and just like make cool stuff really shines in this game with the variety of the guns and their behaviors. Because that's a lot of the fun. It's just one gun will do something radically different from the next.
Yeah. Like don't systematize things too early. Like build a couple of wildly different, divergent things, and then later go, okay, what system could these fit into?
Yeah, you'd want to do that later on, because I think there's so much randomness. I feel like trying to figure out how to categorize things would just, I wouldn't know where to start.
It also sounds to me a good example of the devs taking advantage of their strengths, though, and maybe also because I feel like artists tend to be like, oh, I have all these ideas and I'm going to make all of them and not think about it and worry about what the consequences later. But I think that, I mean, it was very clear to me that whoever was animating all this stuff was doing it a lot, because it was a lot. I was very shocked with like, wow, this is a lot of really high quality animation, and they're all doing these crazy movements, and there's so many of them. That's nuts. And I think it worked out really well that, okay, sure, like you love animating stuff and drawing stuff, and make a bunch of funny weapons that are funny to play with, and have all these ideas, and all the bosses are also really goofy and ridiculous, and then figure it out later. That makes sense to me.
Well, I think there's quite a lot of mixing of like 2D billboarded sprites and 3D things with 2D pixel filters on top of them in this. There's definitely some bosses that are 3D animated and then filtered. And I'm not entirely sure what the workflow is there, but yeah, there's stuff that looks maybe more labor intensive than it was, but you get a few animation specialists in one place and they're going to come up with some strange pipeline that we would never have thought of, because they're just mushing together all of the skills and tools that they've accrued over years.
I think if you're someone that likes content, like I just found every single new gun that I picked up, and there's a bunch. Every single new gun I was excited, and I wanted to see how it shot and what the reload was like and what sounds it made, where I really haven't gotten that in a lot of other games. So this is like a content feast if you like pixel art and animation.
I think there's almost 200 weapons.
Woo!
That's crazy.
With the kind of like absurdity stuff, did y'all? I mean, the bosses on their own, they're kind of like the focus of the game. I was curious, like, did y'all have a favorite boss or something that you appreciated?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna find out what they're called. If anyone knows the name of theirs, I will be just.
Mine would have to be Alan Gloob, the computer guy. Just because they just went all in on the concept of he's a guy in a computer. What moves can we do with the computer motif? So he's like, at one point, he's like driving around on a mouse, and there'll be like cursors coming up and like drawing a square that's actually a hitbox. That's fun. That
Yeah. So
and then the bonus of that one, like when you actually beat him, he'll come out of the computer and he'll just be like lying on the floor in his pants, and you can just like jump on him like an unlimited amount of times. I did wonder like whether I should like jump on him like 100 times and something would happen. Like I think Crash Bandicoot 2, if you jumped on the polar bear 10 times in the level select menu, you got like a whole ton of level 1-ups. And I was like, oh, am I going to get anything for like jumping on him? And I jumped on him loads of times. Nothing happened. Disappointed. Terrible game.
Wow. Major oversight.
that was the animation that I saw in the game, and I literally thought, oh, that's a Dan thing. When Alan comes out of the computer and you see him in his like little like diaper type thing, and he's crying when you defeat him. I was like, that's a Dan thing. But yeah, that's an example of what I was talking about earlier, where that area doesn't start with the computer enemies, and you have to unlock them by picking up those little golden things, and then you get that boss and you get the computer enemies in that area. And the first area, and it's called Atlantis, the keglers that are the little crabs that like throw explosives at you, and their boss. You don't have them initially, and you have to like unlock them. So each of the areas has an unlockable boss and an unlockable set of enemies that don't start off there until you've collected those bits, and Alan Gloob is one of those. Did anyone else have a favorite boss?
That ant, the ant. Maybe is this the Atlantis one? I'm not sure. There were the Imperiants, but there's this one boss where first it's like a normal, not really a normal sized ant, a small sized ant about your size, who comes out of the ground with a trumpet going like doo doo doo, and then immediately gets like stomped or eaten or crushed or something by the actual boss that like emerges from the ground, and it's a giant like ant queen. And that dude is stuck in my head because I've been doing that boss so many times. But that was that intro just really sticks for me.
I love the boss is just called Pony. So the third area is just called the North, and suddenly after this game has had no sort of standard folklore or normal high fantasy stuff until you get to the third area, and then the third area is just like bizarro Scandinavian and Grimm's fairy tales stuff. So you've got little gnomes with red hats. You've got these weird they're like there's various creatures that have like a mixture of raven and moose body parts.
Ah, yes.
And then one of the bosses in this area is just called Pony, and it looks like a horse, but it has like eyes in the wrong place. It has eyes in its nostrils.
Yes.
And it runs around and it does all of these different horse-based moves where it becomes like a unicorn and attacks.
It's got lasers too, right?
Yeah, that was the one that where I first saw it, I just burst out laughing and like, the bosses are great, but that one got me for some reason.
Yeah, when you're talking about like all the there's so many monsters or like creatures or enemies, whatever, where I don't know, like so many times I was just like, I don't even know what that is. You just see it and it's like, oh yeah, that character. And like, if you're like, oh, what animal is that? I just feel like I don't know. It was this thing. I feel like this is how I would describe like most of the things I'd see. Maybe I'm just not that observant.
They're all
There's
pretty
one-
cute too. And when they kill you, it does show which animal or creature killed you, and I never really feel mad at them. They're just kind of cute owls. Go on, Cheese.
Well, yeah, the enemies, like the smaller enemies, are all over the place because they're themed by the area sometimes, right? Like you've got little gem guys, and then you have emerald like ethereal entities, but then there's little computer robots with Alan Gloob. There's the Porcos, which are like the pig people. But eventually you get into like some really like gnomes and little Boy Scout owls that are also Boy Scouts or something. My favorite was there's a bunch of like Norse runic type of people,
Yeah.
and there's one called a Nordune Elder, and
Yep.
he makes all these rune stones float in the air and attack you. But when you finally kill him, he like falls on the ground and is screaming as one of his rune stones just falls and flattens him as his death animation. So
Yeah.
I don't have the count, but there's so many enemy variety.
Yeah, the
really great.
Nordun are like little purple Vikings with blue noses, and they look like what Jim Henson would do if he had to make like Viking Muppets.
I don't want to harp on Enter the Gungeon too much because it was a very foundational game. But with that one, I bounced off because I just got so bored after a while because it was the same start of a level every time. The enemies looked the same to me every time. Maybe I just hadn't unlocked enough. But I feel like in this game, it has enough to keep it fresh as you keep going back. The procedural generation of it is done well, where I never really felt like I was seeing the same kind of like template area more than once. So
Yeah.
it felt pretty fresh to me every time I went in and played it, variety-wise.
It made losing a lot more fun too, because I guess what would happen was a lot of the enjoyment of the game came not just from winning or being like, I have to stack my upgrades in this specific way. And so when you lost, it was kind of like, oh, well, but like I got to see some different funny animals this time, or like my run kind of turned out in this different way that where I had to problem solve, and I still managed to problem solve my way through other difficulties, even if the boss got me in the end. And so returning to play again and try new guns or beat up other funny enemies. You also don't know which boss you're going to get, you know. I think that took a lot of the sting out of losing, especially in a game that is quite difficult, right? So I think that was another way the kind of massive amount of content. And so I think specifically not just content, but very, very charming, funny, unusual content, right? It, you know, with the visuals and the audio and everything. Everything was very playful and amusing. So that I think that for me, that was something that really stuck out with this game, and it was also one of the reasons I wanted to play it, because it's not that I'm bad at these games. It's that whenever when I go and look around for a game like this, they all feel like, well, that's not very cute or that's not very fun, and I just beat the thing and okay, cool, I'll play that for like an hour. And then this one was like, oh, I'm getting a kick out of the funny. What is the funny narrator gonna say this time? What is you know, I didn't see the pony until I had played for like 10 hours in, and I was laughing. I think Cheese was playing with me when I saw it for the first time. I was having a big laugh at this pony. And I think for me, that was what really made this game really special.
It kind of reminds me a little bit about some of the conversations that we have about, I don't know, games like Slay the Spire, where they go for this very weird, kooky approach to like monsters and lore and stuff, and how that kind of encourages you to be a bit more inquisitive about the game because you don't know what any of this stuff is. And like the bizarreness of the setting and the art style and all of the weapons, it just kind of puts you in a very different way of thinking about this game compared to if it was just, you know, you could make structurally the same game with 200 guns, and it could be like Borderlands style sci-fi gun porn, and it just wouldn't be the same as this, because the bizarreness is just kind of like giving you that inquisitiveness of like, I want to see what all of this, I want to see what the next weird thing is.
I think maybe part of the secret is, I don't know if y'all ever understood too much of the lore, but like kind of framing the whole game is the void, the anti-void or whatever. And there's a separate set of enemies and bosses that are a very strong visual style, where they're solid black and they have like neon red, pink look to them. And just having this extra mysterious thing woven into the game. And this is the thing that after each boss you kill, they all have a second stage where they become the void version of themselves. You see these hands like reaching out of the ground and grabbing things. It helps pull all the wackiness together, because it gives a reason for kind of why you're there and the mystery underneath the game. And I just think that was, whether it was intentional or not, that's like a really smart choice to kind of put a almost like a sausage casing around just like a big freaking mess, but you have this thin skin around the outside that kind of pulls it all together, which I think is nice.
Visually, I think it does that as well, because I feel like the Void characters are probably, like, in terms of design, I feel like the devs held back on the wackiness the most, because I think all the Void characters are, like, I would say the design's more generic than, like, everything else in the game. Like, everything's like, oh, how crazy can we make this? And then you've got these Void things that are, like, just like, always the same color scheme. And it's like, yeah, they are kind of like the... Oh, you know, we'll relax here. They can be like the glue that holds everything together.
If you think of things like Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers or whatever, where you had all of these different zany enemies every time, but then you'd always have like the generic foot soldiers that were the Putty Patrol. Yeah, it gives it a coherence so that the more zany stuff can feel more special, I guess.
I was 8. And even then, I was thinking, because you could kill a putty soldier by just kicking them in the P circle that's on their chest, and I was like, just put a piece of metal over that or something. What are they doing? This is the most economical fix that the bad guys could do. But I hate the Putty Patrol.
Kick them in
You just had such a pause after P. I've never seen this before, so I was like, okay, wow, an 8-year-old child. Go ahead, sure, whatever you're watching.
Kick them in the P.
And then I was gonna add too with the void theming. It's kind of like the one time in the game, the few times in the game that you're like, oh shit, time to lock in. It's when the void stuff shows up, because that's the big boss. That's the big thing that murdered your society or whatever. And then otherwise everything else is I don't know what's going on. It's a good time.
There was like the weapons that were, or weapons or any kind of upgrade that was like super rare orange tier, were like usually particularly exciting, like mechanics wise. Like there was one that, in boss battles you have this beacon, and the beacon is like this thing, and if the boss gets near it, it will like shoot it. But there was an upgrade that meant the beacon would actually move around and follow you. And I was like, wow, that's mental. and then in the next area, I got one that added a spinning blade to the beacon. So I just had this big helicopter following me around everywhere, and it would just knock all the dead bodies everywhere. And I was like, this is great. I'm loving this. But yeah, that's what I had to say.
Yeah. I really appreciate just everything being based around trade-offs. You know, you're not just like constantly getting little incremental increases in your stats most of the time. Well, not most of the time, but particularly with the weapons, it's like you're putting something down to pick something up. And with the power-ups, you can kind of stack them and you can have multiple of them, but there's a lot of times when the game will go, hey, do you want to get rid of this power-up to power up this power-up, or do you want to get rid of this power-up for some health or whatever? And it just feels very nicely like you're alternating a lot between doing this very intense Twitch-based gameplay and then like having a moment of deep strategic thought about building your engine and then going back and forth between those things.
There's no real permanent like upgrade system. Like you don't get increases to your health or attack power between runs. So this game is very much it's just your build where you're training stuff in and out.
Thinking more about broader design patterns in these types of games as well, like there are things that you might think are upgrades when you do them between runs, but they're not really upgrades. They're upgrading the difficulty of the game by like adding an extra boss or giving you an extra character that is harder to use or whatever. So you feel like you're getting these rewards and you go, yeah, and you're used to probably, most people will be used to rewards in games making you more powerful, but it's actually the just devs sort of like, oh, you've played the game for 3 hours now? Oh, let's just crank the overall, like, sometimes it's difficulty, sometimes it's just like the randomness of what's going to be available to you or whatever, but it's, yeah, like you say, it's never just making you more powerful, but it's still giving you rewards. It's just like hiding things in rewards that aren't necessarily like making the game easier for you, I guess.
For all the run-based games I've played the past few years, like I've almost come to expect that after you beat a run, you should see a screen and it says, now you've unlocked this and now you've unlocked that. And I thought that was like a critical part of run-based games. But in this one, I could be mistaken, but it kind of feels like everything is available from the start with a few exceptions. And like Shan said, you're not upgrading between runs. It's the same skill to get through a run end to end, and generally the same items are there in your shops and things from end to end. It's really just you have to get better as a player to see more of the game, and you have to learn how to play the game, learn how to do the trade-offs that you were talking about that really fit for a build. Like I think maybe Dan said earlier, doing a really melee focused build and deciding to maybe you do need to trade some max health to get the upgrade that makes your melee weapon shoot lasers out, because that's like one more piece to unlock the ultimate melee build.
Maybe people have come to expect the more roguelite, having some sort of progression and spending some sort of currency between runs. And then if you want to have that, but still have a very, very skill-based game, it's almost like you need to trick players into thinking that your game is that, right? Oh, we're doing Hades. You can spend stuff. And then players get into it. And then only after a while, they realize that there's nothing to like upgrade your health bar or any of that kind of stuff.
I think with some of the upgrades too, like some descriptions are dead on, like this will make your bullets avoid walls. But other ones, like, I still don't know what a snake bullet does, and I kind of like it. Like, so a lot of that was driving me to try a new upgrade, just to see what would happen, I guess. So I certainly got a lot of that.
I do have a bit of a sour point with this game, speaking of picking up things just to see this is new, or, just being unfamiliar with something. So on my melee build that I was so excited about, I saw there was a pink sword in the shop. I was like, oh boy, a pink sword. That's definitely melee. But obviously this is the game where you pick up a sword-shaped weapon and it's a bloody gun. It's a gun that shoots swords. Or like it's a sword that just like, it shoots swords out of it. And it's like, for God's sake, I could have bought something else for that money. I'll just trade it later and hope I get a melee weapon later.
I did the same thing with the tennis racket for ages. I didn't pick it because I thought it was melee and I had a melee I liked, and then realized it was a ranged weapon that hit balls. Cheese and Shen, do you have anything else to say about the co-op experience you had before we just wrap up on like maybe some stuff we've learned for our own games and then pick the next one?
Just describe it real quick, and Shen, I want to know what you thought about it, because I struggled a bit, but it is there is an online co-op in this game. It's designed for couch co-op, so more or less you can play on something like Steam Remote Play if you want to play with someone over the internet. But you're seeing both characters on screen at the same time. You're seeing the same everybody's weapon and ammo loadout. So it's definitely built for, I don't know, you're sitting next to one kind of play. But yeah, what did you think about it, Jen, when we played through it? So.
Yeah, I quite like the co-op. I think I remember the main thing that struck me again, because I don't get to play co-op a whole lot. The last time I played a bunch of co-op was like Deep Rock Galactic. And I remember when Cheese and I first started playing, I noticed immediately that we were both locked into the same screen at all times, like Cheese was saying. And specifically, if one person sort of ran off screen just a little too much, a little kind of timer type thing would appear and then teleport that off-screen person back near whoever was kind of closer to the center of the camera. I can't recall if that was related to whoever was player 1 or 2, but I don't think it was, because I remember I would tend to run off because Cheese was maybe head somewhere, and then I was like, oh crap, I wanted to get this thing, and then I'd run down and kind of had to run back up really quickly or get teleported back. And at first it was a little weird because I was like, oh, why can't we both like kind of go off and do things more efficiently? But it ended up being more of a fun and genuinely cooperative experience that way, because if somebody fell down, then you would, if somebody died, you could revive them by getting a health pickup, basically, which was nice. And then there was also this kind of trade-off of like sort of, oh, a gun dropped, who's gonna get it? And or hey, max health dropped, only one person can get it, so who wants to take it? And but there was one thing that was annoying, which was it was not immediately clear to us whether the power-ups were shared. So I think, from what I remember, there were times where, let's say, I think I was going with guns and Cheese was going with melee weapons. And there would be times where a power-up would drop that would buff or have some passive for melee weapons, let's say. And I would pick it up because I would be like, oh, Cheese, we want this, right? And he'd be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll get it. And then I picked it up. And then later, when somebody opened up the power-up screen, and then we saw that the power-ups had P1, P2 assigned to each power-up, and we were like, wait, does that mean it doesn't apply to both people? So that was a little annoying. But otherwise, it was certainly a lot of fun to play with another person.
Yeah, I'm happy the devs put co-op in there, because it's easy to like not do multiplayer at all. I know these days devs can get a lot of gripe if they make multiplayer, but it's not online multiplayer. But I can certainly see why people would want to play this co-op. But I agree. The big gripe is that power-up thing where it's unnecessary friction of like, is this power-up for you or for me? And I feel like it could have just been a lot stronger if when you got power-ups, you shared them. Just like in a lot of modern co-op games nowadays, or even just general multiplayer, you pick up gold and it's everybody's gold. That's just a nice way to facilitate friendship, I guess,
right.
in games like these.
Especially because the shards, which were the kind of money currency, that was shared. So we just assumed, I think, that if the money was shared, that surely the power-ups are shared.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, if like some stuff's shared and some stuff isn't shared, like that inconsistency is definitely harder to get across easily to people.
Yeah, I can see why some of it's done though, because it's like if someone's picking up a thing that changes your projectiles and you don't want that, and now your gun behaves completely differently, or there's lots of ones where you might not necessarily want both people to have them at the same time. So
it's one of those things where if it was a setting, that would be so cool. And it's like, great job, devs, for giving us the choice to have a shared co-op run or like an independent one, but it's all work, right? To get all those things in there. So I think ultimately it's a pretty good experience.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of work, what are your main takeaways from this? I feel like we've dotted them through as we've spoken, really, but is there anything that felt like a real aha moment for any of you in terms of actually making stuff?
I feel like it was different, like for my game, it definitely did a lot of like frame by frame animation. Like I was very much like this game, like every time doing like a cool attack animation or something, like I was like, oh, what can I do to make this like really fun and silly and absurd or whatever. And I think playing this game made me realize the importance of, you don't have to do it every time. Because I think it was definitely getting to a point where there was so many like wacky cool things happening all the time. I feel like there was like too much to like really savor. Sometimes they'd be like, oh wow, this fish animation, oh wow, what's going over there? And yeah, it made me think like, oh, maybe I should have more things that aren't like crazy, just to like I don't know, give the wacky stuff a bit more of impact when they do happen. Like it's, that light and dark kind of balance. And I think I think this game, definitely made me feel like, oh yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff, but maybe it doesn't have to be this concentrated. But I don't know, maybe there is value in it being that concentrated.
For me, I've been really appreciating in games recently when currency values are very low, because it makes the choice feel very good. Am I going to spend $5 for this, or do I want to sell this thing for $2 so I can buy this other thing that's $7? And some of that gets lost when you have like crazy high number values, when everything's 14,333 points. But what you miss out on is just the juice, because it's fun to pick up collectibles. So what I really liked in this game is they solved it by, as you're running around the map, you pick up the shards, but they are truly shards. You could pick up, I don't know the amount, but like 15 or 20 little things, and those add up to one shard. So there's this meter. So you get, on the one hand, a lot of fun pickups, but on the other hand, a very low currency to use, where most things in the shops cost between $15 and $30 total. So I thought that was a really good solve for that.
A lot of the games that I play these days are about okay, we're trying to win so that I can see the story or see more content, or I just want to see stuff, and then, or maybe it's like, oh, I'm just collecting stuff. There's some sort of, I don't know, it's about, how do I put it? I feel like a lot of games can be about finishing the game for the sake of finishing the game, or just to get to the end. And this one felt like a lot of the love was put into the dang thing itself, which you would think is self-explanatory. But I think this game really took the kind of wackiness of the fun in not just theme, but like the visuals and the audio, which I love to hear some fun audio. So for me, as someone who's not so technical, I was really happy to see that.
One of the things I noticed while playing this is I didn't get any better at it, and it didn't bother me.
Exactly.
And there's this particular feeling in games where you're sort of like, you're creating a build and you're just sort of like preparing, and then you die from like a single point of failure, right? It is very a strong case of like the journey is more important than the destination type thing. Yeah, I found some of that quite validating, because like the game I'm working on at the moment, I spend a lot of time thinking about what are fun ways to die, and then just build everything else around that. Oh, it's fun if like I blow up some acid and that blows up the level and I fall out of the level because I did a stupid thing. So I'm like a very strong believer in just like some of the best video games are just interactive cartoons, and cartoons are just like, how can we like hurt a little guy on a screen and it'd be funny?
Spelunky was great for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and like those moments of just like, oh, I did that, didn't I? That was my fault. And maybe that's not for everyone, but this was definitely a game where I didn't enjoy it any less, even when I felt like I was terrible at it. And I think that's quite a interesting thing to pull off. And I think some of it is about having that very strong focus on the build and like gradually choosing what stuff you're getting, and all of those little decisions about, do I sacrifice some health and stuff, just made it really, really interesting, and took the focus off of like the destination of am I going to complete the run or not? But yeah, before we move on to the next game, tell me what you think we should play, because like we've done with the previous games, we're picking one of three, because that's what we like in run-based games. We like it when there's three things and you're told pick one of these. But yeah, this time I asked you guys to pitch me games that involved balls and or physics. So things that bounce, I guess.
So I was looking around for games that involved physics and balls, and there were some obvious ones to choose, but I heard about a game called Dogpile, which is in a genre called Suika games, I believe, which are all built around dropping similar shapes together. They merge together to make a bigger shape. And you're more or less filling up a container. This one, though, is based around cartoon dogs. And there's many different species of dogs. Some of them have like maybe a cartoon anus on them, or other very goofy things like that. You've got floofy poodles and big fat Dalmatians. But more or less, you're dropping dogs in a big dog pile, unlocking more dogs. Dog pile looked like a whole bunch of fun.
It's actually in a bundle with I'ma Let You Cook, and it's called I'ma Let You Dog Pile.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness. Pitch Round Guard. It is, I quote from the trailer, the bounciest dungeon crawl ever. You are the ball in this game. It's kind of like Peggle, I guess. You choose a class, like there's like a warrior class, and you aim and you shoot yourself basically around the level. So it's kind of like pinball-y type of thing. And you have to defeat all the enemies that are on screen, and they might be kind of blocked by like pots or other stuff that you have to hit and things like that. And when you attack stuff, you take damage. You have your own health bar as well. So the kind of big twist on it is that you also get a active ability that you have to click, like maybe it's like a stronger attack. So you'll have to be paying attention because there's a bit of this timing component where you have to like do your, time your particular attack at a particular time to kind of clear extra stuff or something. There's also additional passive abilities with like equipment and relics and things like that, or having to work around negative effects caused by enemies or obstacles you hit, like poison or being vulnerable where you take more damage, things like that. And it's this very like cartoony, silly type of game as well. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Dicey Dungeons, that sort of direction of systems.
Do you like balls? Do you like pets? If yes to both, then boy, do I have the game for you. It's called Ball X Pet. It looks mental. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of balls going around. You love it. But I think the best way to describe it is like Vampire Survivors, but Crash Bandicoot type level structure, where it's like it's sort of a column, and you're just kind of going up it, and there's waves of blocks coming down, and you're attacking them like the Breakout games. Like you got a little platform at the bottom of the screen, and you're just bouncing balls off it, and you're just breaking all these blocks, and yeah. There's a lot going on. It looks great. There's also some base building.
I like I've played Ball X Pit, and I really like the first two pitches. They're both things I want to play. Round Guard, I kind of look at it and I know what I'm getting. It's like Peglin Plus. I find the art a little bit off-putting. Dogpile, I absolutely do want to play, but it feels quite close to I'ma Let You Cook in terms of like who it's for and what it's doing. But these dogs, they're such good dogs. They're so good. I just want to look at them. I want to drop them in a hole. I want to score some points. But I think I am going to have to choose Ball X Pit because partly I feel a little bit of a duty of, if any of you haven't played it, that you should get your month of binging this game because it is so good. So yeah, we're going to be playing Ball X Pit for next time. So if you want to play along, you can either download the game and play it, or you can construct your own version of it using a little rolled up piece of foil and lots of little Lego figures, and you can flick them around in your house, and I'm sure that will be exactly the same experience. Thank you for joining me for this. I really enjoyed playing Voidigo, even if I'm terrible at it. And, if you want to support this podcast, head over to patreon.com/indie game clinic to see some of the other stuff that we do. And you can pop in our Discord. We've got a thread for this over there for anyone who's playing along, but to be honest, everyone's too busy working on their games most of the time, so they just wait for us to tell them about the game and give them ideas that they can steal from it, I guess.